right, as it is now past 7 p.m., I will go ahead and call to order the Thursday, September 10th, 2020 meeting of the Royal Oak Zoning Board of Appeals. The board does not write the zoning ordinance, but does have the authority to grant relief from it where practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship would result. The board will vote on each agenda item following a public hearing. Use variance requests require a minimum of 6 affirmative votes in order to grant the requested variances. Non-use variance requests require a minimum of 5 affirmative votes in order to grant the variances. If you would like to request that the board table or adjourn your case due to the absence of a full board, you must inform the chairperson immediately following the public hearing. The petitioners shall do their best to limit their presentations to 10 minutes. Each participant in a public hearing shall do their best to limit their comments to 3 minutes. And I will start off with the roll call vote. Ms. Anderson, I see, is absent. Ms. Zukin?
Here.
I am here. Mr. Olfak?
Here, sorry,
No
unmute.
worries. Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Mr. Kroll?
Here.
Mr. Gavin, I understand is going to be late. Mr. Clapp?
Here.
And Ms. Robinson?
Here.
All right. So the first thing that we're looking for is the approval of the minutes for the August 20th, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kroll
Second.
and second by Mr. Olfak. Any corrections, additions, deletions? Not seeing any hands. I will go ahead and call for the vote. Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Clapp?
Yes.
I'm
Mr.
here.
Kroll?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Now can you see me?
Oh, there you are. Let me finish this vote, Leslie, then we'll jump right back to you.
For some
Mr.
reason,
Olfak?
it's, I can barely hear anybody, but
Mr. Olfak?
Yep.
Ms. Zukin?
yes.
And Ms. Anderson, the motion that you're voting on right now, we just had a motion from Mr. Kroll and a second from Mr. Olfak to approve the minutes for the August 20th meeting.
Clyde, can you hear me? Because I can barely hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Loud and clear.
Can you hear
I
me
have my
better?
volume all the way up, so.
All right, I will try and speak more directly into this microphone here. Can you hear me better? Can everybody else hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so then maybe Ms. Anderson has an issue.
Maybe try your headphones.
I'll give Ms. Anderson a second to get situated here. Because I've got a message that she's still connecting to audio and maybe that did it.
Sometimes you can call in on your phone for the audio while using the computer for the video connection. Maybe she'll need to do that.
Oh, I have something to share.
Yes, ma'am,
I got a message from the petitioner for 224 North Washington. He's having some connectivity issues. Would it be possible to hear his item after the Highfield item to allow him time to get in an area with better reception?
Yeah, I'm sure that's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to try and come in because I can still barely hear anybody.
Okay. All right,
Love technology.
exactly. So in the meantime, Ms. Sherhart, do you want a motion from somebody on the board to rearrange the agenda, or should we just move to item 2 and then go back to item 1?
Maybe we should, and also if we wanted to have the public comment first before old and new business, then perhaps, yeah, let's have a motion for that.
Okay, so then why don't we, if somebody wants to make a 2-part motion, A, to move public comment up to the front, and then B, to reverse items 2 and item 1.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Kroll, and we have a second by Mr.
Second.
Olfak.
Yep.
All right. So I'll go ahead and call for the vote on that. Ms. Anderson?
Just a minute. I'm still trying to hear the volume.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Zukin?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Olfak?
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes.
Mr. Clapp?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Schwager, do you want to go ahead and play that one public comment?
Yes, let me just make sure.
Thank you.
I just turn my volume up here.
Oh, there, got it. Thank you. I'm back in the saddle.
All right.
Are you ready for me to play the public comment now?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Hi, my I've been for 30 some years. I'm calling about the Caswell Properties case number 20-0820 at 4105 Highfield Road. I am against exception for this law. The study of these two have really changed the character. It's been here for 30 years. I've got to appreciate. So, if you would please understand my desire to correct this. Hi, my name is Emily. I've been for 30 some years. I'm calling about the Caswell Properties case number 20-0820 at 4105 Highfield Road. I am against exception for this law. The study of these two have really changed the character. It's been here for 30 years. I've got to appreciate. So, if you would please understand my desire to correct this.
I did play that twice. Just that is the condition that we received that in. It's not the fault of the equipment that we're using. So it's the best we could do with what was received.
And could everybody make it out enough to understand the gentleman's comments?
No, he's not in support. That's all I heard.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thrust of it. The gentleman was against the that particular proposal. All right, so I will skip item 1, but before I move to item 2, Ms. Sherhart, would you like a vote from Ms. Anderson on the minutes just so you can complete your paperwork?
Oh, sure.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, if you could unmute.
Okay.
The one vote that you missed while you were setting up was the vote for the minutes of the August 20th, 2020 meeting. Would you like to vote yes or no on that just so Ms. Sherhart can complete her paperwork?
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of that. And that moves us right along to item D2, which is case number 200820, public hearing on the appeal. Coysville Properties petitioner and owner for the following variances. A, waive 165 feet of the minimum required 6,000 square foot lot area for the proposed interior lot, parcel B. And B, waive 5.5 of the minimum required 60-foot lot width for the proposed corner lot, parcel A, to permit a land division and create 2 vacant single-family home sites located at 4105 Highfield Road. Ms. Sherhart.
Okay, so Carol, I'm trying to share my screen and it says the host disabled participant screen sharing. Could you switch that for me?
Done.
Okay. All right, everyone. So this case was actually heard at the August meeting and the public hearing was opened at that time. From my understanding, Joseph gave an overview of what the requests were, and the petitioner just was having some technical difficulties when it came time for them to speak to their request. And so I would be happy to actually turn it over to them, and unless the board has any questions for me on the agenda item.
Are there any questions for Ms. Sherhart before we move over to the petitioner? Hey, can you change the screen back just so I can see any hands?
Oh, yeah. How about this?
Mr. Klatt.
Maybe just one quick question for clarification. I saw in the report that it did mention that the lots are not consistent in width with the surrounding context, but as per my understanding, do you only look at it 300 feet in each direction, or is it more of a broad brush stroke across the entire street? Or how far does it go out when you analyze consistency of lot width? Is it 300 like the report indicates?
You know,
I just
I
wanted this
don't,
clarification.
yeah, I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule in terms of what that specifically meant. I don't know that, you know, like if we were looking at the ability to do a land division without variances, we would take a look at the similar lots on the same block, and we would take a look at those. So depending on the size of the block, it probably would be less than 300 feet actually. And I'd be happy to go to a view that shows more of the surrounding neighborhood if you'd like.
No, that's okay. I mean, I have the maps in front of me that were in the report,
Okay.
so thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Sherhart at this time? Not seeing any. Is the petitioner present?
Yes.
All right, I can hear you, but we cannot see you at this point.
Okay. Our Wi-Fi seems to be spooked over here. Can you see me now?
I cannot. I don't know if anybody else can, but to me, your screen is just blackness as K. Luton.
We can hear you clear, just can't see.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay. There you are.
There we go.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, the floor is yours. Tell us about your plan, and hopefully we don't have any glitches this month.
Okay, thank you. That was frustrating last time, and we apologize. Well, first, we'll just share a comment. I'll start, and then I'll hand it to my husband. We'll be brief. Kelly Luton Frost here. I've lived in Royal Oak for in the upwards of 30 years. I own a business in Royal Oak. We have, I wouldn't even call it a big building company. We've built 5 houses in Royal Oak in the last 6 years. We've built primarily in our neighborhoods. I've built just across the street, east of where we bought the lot to build our retirement home at, because we love the lot so much. And we also, as we listen to some of the callers, think it's a charming neighborhood, which is why we wanted to participate, to have a home that fit our needs, and to live in the neighborhood. Since then, we've actually made some friends in the neighborhood. And as far as I could tell from the previous callers, it didn't seem like anybody actually on our street had huge objections to the house. What I would like to share when I said we built 5 homes or 6 homes in Royal Oak is that what we have found in some of these charming neighborhoods, they don't necessarily fit all families. So sometimes making a change or building a new home in an existing neighborhood kind of, you know, adds a little possibility for families that are looking for different kinds of floor plans, to, you know, open kitchens and things like that. Some of the present homes don't afford that. So we felt wherever we've built, it's been really well received, and great families move in there and raise families. So when we bought the house, again, we wanted to make it a retirement home. We went through quite a bit of cost and time and energy to roll that plan out. For many reasons, that became unattainable to us. So then we went back to our original thought, well, why not share that space with 2 wonderful families that want to raise families in that neighborhood? So kind of our game is, we think it'd be a great addition to the neighborhood. We think it would bring in people that are looking for a different kind of floor plan, a different kind of house. Not to take away anything from the existing homes. They're all beautiful. And the 2 homes that we're planning to build are very traditional homes, you know, just kind of the new floor, new layout that the younger people seem to be listening to. So Richard Frost, he has a few comments for you too. Thank you for your time.
Hi, everybody. So let me kind of give a little bit more background of why we're here. So, you know, our subdivision was designed on our street with cozy and many small lots under 50 feet or under. We included a snapshot of the plot plan that the planning department provided with us. And you can see our property is actually plotted as 2 individual lots. When the subdivision was laid out, it was never meant as one big lot. So with that, the original owner of our property purchased 2 lots and built kind of a sprawling ranch right in the middle of the 2 lots. And then he added a lean-to carport. And it was certainly something that didn't, fit with the neighborhood. It was kind of a little odd. Mostly there were bungalows and colonials, and there was this lean-to. So when we purchased it, again, as Kelly said, our intent was to build kind of a large ranch and retire. And, we were kind of have this kind of industrial flair to it. So ours is kind of a little bit edgy. And we wanted, and to do that, we needed the variance for the garage. And we worked with the planning department, which was really, great last July. And so we received the variance. And as Kelly said, we got to know some of the neighbors. And in talking to the neighbors, they were really concerned about, they didn't like the ranch that was there because it didn't fit. I mean, if you look across the street, everything's a 50-foot lot right across, right behind us. They didn't like the large lot. They didn't like the large modern ranch. They said it would really stand out like a sore thumb. And, we kind of thought about it, and yeah, it kind of would. So in talking with our neighbors, they said, let's go with it. They said they actually reminded us that it was originally plotted as 2 lots. In fact, it's not 1 lot. It's combined as 2 lots. Our tax bill says lot, I think 107 and 108. So what we did was, we're not dividing a lot. We're just trying to get it back to the original coziness and character of the neighborhood. So, things. So we thought, hey, it does make sense. Let's not put a big sprawling ranch in the middle of that neighborhood. Let's go back to what, was originally planned. So with that, we went with the planning department and saying, hey, our plot plan shows it's 2 lots. Is it really 2 lots? And they pulled the plot plan and they said, yeah, it's 2 lots. It's, lots 106, 107. And we said, well, we wanted to, build 2 houses on there. They pulled the plot plan. They did the measurements. They went back actually several times back and forth working with them. And they said there was no issue splitting the lot and no variance would be required. So, we said, how do we do that? Then, so they told us the first thing to do, we need to get a survey, we need to demo the house, and then apply for the split. So we had the survey made. Again, I met with the planning department. They confirmed that, the survey, what we were proposing is exactly what's on the plot plan. We weren't trying to change anything from the subdivision. And the plot plan stated we could, and they said we could split the lot. So they told us each of the lots conformed and there was no issue with the split. So we spent some money. We cut the power. We had the gas taken out. We capped the sewer. We fenced the yards. We had the trees taken down. We demoed the house, right? And then, so the house was demoed. We, there got the paperwork and we turned in the split just like we had been, told to, directed to do, advised to do. And, we expected the, split and confirmation to come, very quickly. Of course, COVID hit and everything hit. And so finally it was a number of months and we got back and the planning department said, guess what? We found a couple of nuances. Yeah, even though it's plotted as 2 lots and you have 2 lots, you're 140 feet out of 6,000 feet short, and the other is, hey, they changed the corner restrictions in this lot, so you need to get that. And I asked him, I said, so, and this only applies because there's a kind of a sweeping clause in the Royal Oak thing that if 2 people own the same lot, they're kind of treated as one and they can't be sold individually unless they conform. So I said, so if they had never, if 2 different people own these lots, there'd be no problem, right? They could just build 2 houses on them. They go, oh yeah, no problem whatsoever with that. It's just because they're owned that we need to go through this. So, we're a little bit, I'd say miffed because, we understand it's a complex process, but, what we're trying to do is not change the character of the neighborhood, but actually move back to what it was originally plotted as. I mean, the plot plan shows the 2 lots in there, and that's all we're trying to do is conform with the original intent of the subdivision plot plan.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, well, let me start with some questions. Let me open the floor first. I saw Mr. Opak first.
Yeah, and this might be a question for more Juliana. If you know of if his story is corroborated, not saying I don't trust him, but we always get a lot of stories, and I just want to make sure that it is similar to that. What he's saying is what went on with the planning department, because
Yeah, unfortunately, I was not the planner involved in this back and forth. I mean, what I do know is that, the lots don't meet the minimum standard requirements for the one family residential zoning district. And what we do at first when we get a land division request is to see if, is the width or the area at least the same size or greater than 50% of the parcels on the block. For a corner lot, you're just comparing it against the other corner lots at that intersection. So there aren't many to compare to. And then for the interior lot, you would compare against basically, the other homes on like both sides of the streets, which it is kind of a small block. So, with that being said, I think that 50% rule wasn't met. So therefore the need for variances, but unfortunately I don't know about the history. My last recollection of this case was actually, as they mentioned in July, when they had sought a few variances to build a different single family home at that site. So.
Any other questions for staff at this point? Did I see your hand, Ms. Anderson? You need to unmute, Leslie.
Sorry. I have a question, and that is, are the requests always in writing? It seems that would be very arbitrary if someone was requesting a lot split and someone said okay without having a stamped seal of approval from planning.
Sure. Let me go into the case file and see if there. I mean, typically, the way that it works is that there's going to be a land division application that originates in the assessor's office. And so the applicant fills that out and then it makes its rounds to the different relevant departments that need to weigh in, such as engineering and planning. And so there would be kind of a paper trail if there was an approval.
Okay.
All right, before we go any further, I'm going to go back to the petitioners. And as I stated at the very beginning, we are down one board member this evening. You will need to carry 5 affirmative votes out of 8 in order for this land division to be successfully passed by this board. Would you like us to move forward with your request, or we could certainly table it until next month in hopes of a full board?
We'll move forward.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Elfack.
I do have a question for the petitioner.
Yes, sir.
You've mentioned that several people were actually all right with you not having a sprawling ranch because it was out of character with that neighborhood. And last month we listened to a lot of messages of people who were against it. Several seemed to be right in that area, as well as some of the emails. So do you have a list of people who actually were for it? And with all the other ranches in that area, as well as colonials, what you're stating of it being out of place as a ranch, how is that, how are you coming to that conclusion?
We did get the variance to build our sprawling ranch. And as I said earlier when I was speaking, there was a few reasons why that became unattainable to us. We remembered that a lot of people seemed like the ranch was going to be too big. So we thought, well, if this is unattainable, it would be very pleasing to the neighborhood to go back to 2 smaller, modest houses. Steve Baldwin and Judy Baldwin next door, we chat with them all the time. They seem to have a pulse on the neighborhood. I don't want to speak for Steve. I don't know if Steve has spoken for himself, so I won't do that. They seem to understand, and we actually showed them the pictures of the houses we're planning to build. They were a little more traditional. They thought it would be a lovely fit for the neighborhood, but again, I don't want to speak for them. They seem to also think that the people on our street did not think it was a bad idea. I mean, I don't know exactly where every address was on the audio last time because we were having trouble, but it seemed like they weren't like our next door neighbors, our neighbors across the street, and so on and so forth. But I'm just saying that on the hearsay of what I could remember from the audio being crispy. It didn't seem like we had any direct neighbors in opposition. There's many reasons why we didn't build our sprawling ranch.
Any other questions, Ms. Anderson?
I would like to ask the petitioner if they think that the other sprawling ranches around there do fit into the neighborhood, because there are a variety. There's, you know, properties within a block, if not right on the block. My other question was, I think, now I could be wrong, but one of the reasons that before, when you wanted to build the ranch and expand, wasn't it the garage that was so big? Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but I think we were okay with your ranch. It was possibly the garage.
Right, we came before you for setbacks before. So to answer your your first question, you know what? We really like all houses in the neighborhood. We like that people have personal flavors and tastes. We like ranches. We like colonials. We like interesting builds. We like interesting facades. We like interesting gardens. You know, we think that's what makes a neighborhood special, is that people can put their own, you know, kind of heart into their home. So if you're asking me, do we think the other houses in the neighborhood work well? We do, of course.
Okay, so that being said, if a ranch would work, have you considered redoing a ranch?
So one of the things we thought of that, so each of the ranches, none of them span 2 lots. Right, ours would span 2 lots, and we came back not only for the garage variance, but for setbacks on the front and on the rear and on the side. So it was large, much larger than anything else in the neighborhood. So that's one of the reasons why the neighbors reached out to us and said it wouldn't fit. So I don't think what we had planned would fit with the neighborhood. Also, if you look immediately near us, right across the street, there's like a 48-foot lot, a 50-foot lot on the corner, another lot on the thing. Right behind us is, you know, two lots that are smaller than what we're proposing. Right on the other corner, kitty corner from us, another 2 50-foot lots. You know, right to the west of us or east of us is another, you know, small bungalow. So we don't fit in to the cluster of where our property is.
Well, on your same block, do you not have a 135-foot frontage of one house and 170-foot frontage of another house?
Yeah, but it's around the corner. It
Well,
curves.
it's the same block, so.
But neighborhood changes. There's a cluster of these smaller houses right in our corner.
Well, I see a lot of diversity is what I guess I'm getting at. And I don't think that it precludes you from building on that piece of property the way it is. And I think you could do a wonderful, wonderful job with someone who wants a large lot and a larger home too.
We would have loved to have been those people, but it became unattainable for us.
Right, any other questions for the petitioners at this point? Mr. Opak.
Last thing, you said you're doing 2 houses for 2 families. So the way you said that made it sound like you're neither one of those families that's going to live in one of those houses. Correct?
Correct.
Also, was that yes?
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay, so you're not going to be in there. Are you going to be able to, and I doubt you will be able to, both those houses in there without coming back to us for more variances? Because I have a feeling that corner lot, you'd have to come back to us for a bunch of variances to get that house on that lot.
So when I met with the planning department, right, we went through and I had kind of those rough punch sheet. They measured they said it would fit, right? We have the architectural concepts, but of course we're going to have to, you know, we don't, it's not our intent to come back for any more variances, but we have to, you know, do the final planning on it. But you know, our plan is to fit in the character of the neighborhood, keep the footprint of those houses, the same footprint of the bungalows. So we wouldn't ask for any other, you know, variances that would not like align with the other houses in there. But we don't anticipate variances. But you know, we spent enough on demo. We did the rough concept. We didn't spend, you know, another huge amount of money on the architectural fees yet.
Because usually with it not being 60 foot, that's gonna give you a problem trying to get those setbacks that you need to have on both sides to work.
So the other houses that we've built have been on 50-foot lots with, 5-foot setback on each side, a garage on the front, and then it's
They
a,
weren't corner, were they?
excuse me?
Were they a corner lot?
They weren't corner, no.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for the petitioner? I thought I saw somebody say.
Hello, excuse me,
Joseph?
Joseph. My name is John Canars. I'm an attorney for Kelly and Rich. And using your zoning board of appeals variance checklist on the non-use variances, because I think that's what you're voting on, which requires 5 affirmative votes. The first, pardon me, the first thing is that the ordinance restrictions unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. Now, in this case, these are 2 lots. And they've never been turned into 1 lot. They are 2 lots, and they are basically the same size as every other lot in that neighborhood. Secondly, the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to the property owners in the district, and a lesser relaxation than the requested would not give substantial relief to the owner of the property, or more consistent with justice to the other property owners. Now, in this case, you're talking about 1 on the corner lot is 6 feet. The other point I would like to make, and Julianne would know this, the applicants went to the department and they told them it would be fine to do this. They relied upon the, there was actually 2 people. They relied upon the advice given them by your own department and went ahead and demolished the house and spent almost $40,000 to do this. And my last point would be that the alleged hardship has not been created by the applicant. And this certainly wasn't created by them. They relied upon what your department told them, and they also relied upon the fact that this was 2 lots. It's never been 1 lot. So, I wanted to point that out prior to you taking your vote.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to just point out that it is 1 lot. It was platted as 2, but it is still just 1 lot, to clarify.
Well, that's not true according to your own records. It's 1 lot for tax purposes.
It parcel. It's a tax parcel, but
It's a tax parcel, but 2 lots.
Ms. Robinson.
Does it have 2 water sewer taps on it? Are there 2 taps or just 1?
all the taps were shut off when the house was demolished.
So I mean, but when the house was there was only 1 water tap, 1 sewer line?
No, the taps are there. There was set in for two waters, but only 1 was connected to the house because there was only 1 house.
Okay. But there were 2 taps there for 2 lots, one for each lot.
Yes, on the sidewalk. I mean, it's plotted as lot 105 or I'm thinking, I remember 107, 106 and 107. The plot plan shows it as 106 and 107.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying that a plat map is not the same thing as the, parcel fabric of the zoning ordinance. But in any case, maybe we can we've had a lot of talk about the past requests and all of that, and just the request before you is to waive 165 square feet of the minimum required lot area for their interior lot and 5.5 feet of width for the corner lot. So those are the two variance requests before the board today.
And I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to the side of the table. I think we've gotten enough pertinent information where we'll stay on this side of the table. Is anybody prepared to take action at this point? Anybody?
I'll move to deny case number 200820.
We have a motion to deny by Ms. Anderson. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, we have a second by Mr. Ofak. Ms. Anderson, would you like to follow up?
I am not seeing the hardship here. I think that that is a very diverse area and very diverse neighborhood. Now, I don't know what the history is of the conversations back and forth with the city. I feel unless something's put in writing, you probably shouldn't move forward with anything until you get that stamp of approval and not just hearsay from conversation. So I don't know about that. I'm going by the criteria and the fact that they may have some neighbors that are for it, but we've had 6 neighbors who are not for it. And I don't think it unreasonably prevents the owner from using the property for the purpose, which would be a lovely home on a corner. And I think the width, size, and general character of the lots in the neighborhood are all diverse. And this is a nice section of diverseness. So I may think of something else to say a little bit later, but Mr. Olfak can add to that if he'd like.
Mr. Ofak?
I feel the plight of the owners right now if they thought they had to go ahead and didn't have one or whatnot. But again, it's hearsay. There's no written proof one way or another. Going strictly by the non-use variances and the criteria, chapter restriction unreasonably prevent the owner from using this property as permitted purpose. No, they previously had a large ranch on there. They tore it down. Another one could go back up or a different house. It doesn't preclude them from not using that and they needing to have it split. Number 2, the variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as the property owners in the district. As you heard, it's a mixed bag. There was a lot of people who called in last time that were against it. There's only a couple that were for it. So obviously the residents nearby don't want it split, or some do and a bunch don't. Applied as landowner is due to unique circumstance of the property. Maybe the alleged hardship has been created by the person, not been created by any person presently interested in the property. No, even that one's again a little bit busy, but they did create it themselves by trying to split this instead of going with what we previously had granted them, where it was a reduced garage to the house that was there. Additional criteria, the width, size, general character of lots in the neighborhood in that area. As you can see, if you went around that area, there are several lots. Yes, if you looked at just the lot layout, the lots are smaller, but if you look at the actual how the houses are laid out, there's a lot of larger lots there. Breaking this one up, a domino effect that allows the other large lots to be split up. And you go from what one neighborhood it feels like of nice spread out to all of a sudden now you can start compact it more. And that would totally drastically change that neighborhood. Within the shape of the lot leaves adequate buildable area to construct dwelling, which is in harmony in the character of the neighborhood. Going through there, there's a lot of ranches and there's a lot of colonials. Splitting that and putting that corner one on will be tight compared to the other corners that are right near there. And finally, the extent to which the developed lots in the neighborhood and or area have maintained required yards and lots in width. Again, that's going to be hard pressed, I think, to get that corner lot in there to maintain what is across the street and around that area. So it's really, you're trying to shove a little bit in there, and I feel for them, like I said, if they really thought they had the green light to go for it and didn't have any written approval. But if you're going strictly by the variances and their criteria, I don't see this passing mustard. It's got too many things going against it.
And I would say that I don't think that that's a unique piece of property either. I think it's a normal piece of property in that unique area, but.
Well, let me chime in because I keep hearing everybody speak for me, considering that I live around the block and nobody in my neighborhood seems to support this. And I can assure you that's not the case. I will not be supporting this motion to deny. I mean, for me, first of all, had this been originally set out with 2 houses as originally planted, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. As the petitioners did correctly state, if 2 separate people own these 2 separate property or parcels, we would not be having this discussion. We have 2 lots directly across the street from what they're proposing that are very similar in size. We have 2 that are very directly behind it. I happen to live on a horseshoe right around the corner from them. The front of my house is probably 40 foot wide and the back of my house is probably 90 feet wide. There's a lot of pie-shaped lots. There's a lot of odd-shaped lots in my neighborhood. And, you know, the other thing that I would want to point out to this board is that my neighborhood, even though we sort of look like we're single-family large lot, we are a standard single-family home zoning. We are not a large lot zoning. So I think we're sort of holding them, you know, we keep referring to the size of these lots. I think this would be in harmony with the neighborhood. I think they would fit just fine. And the fact that they're just reverting to the original planning that's been on the record for decades, I think it's a reasonable request on this part, and therefore I cannot support the motion to deny. Mr. Kroll.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not be supporting this denial either. Somehow, as I view it and stood in the middle of the lot, looking to the back of the lot, it was quite clear there were 2 houses and they weren't 30-foot lots. And we're not talking 30-foot lots here, but there were clearly 2 houses that were inside the fence line of this house. They weren't on top of each other. They didn't look crowded. I turned around, looked the other way, and there were also 2 houses. So why then can there not be 2 houses on this lot? You know, sometimes you start to think of us as an appeal board. Everybody that comes in front of us is trying to break the laws of the zoning codes. But sometimes it really comes down to a smell test to me that says I'm standing in the middle of the lot and I have 2 houses that clearly are not on top of one another and clearly within that same area. I can't see denying them. And as Clyde said, if they were 2 lots, they wouldn't be in front of us at all today. So I will not be supporting this motion.
Any other comments? Mr. Opak?
One thing to say on that 2 lot, or if they were 2 lots, that's anyone who comes before us wanting to split a lot. If they were 2 lots, they wouldn't have to come before. So I don't like that argument. I'm better with Alan's argument of saying, oh, I can see 2 houses within that. So I don't agree with your 2 lot argument. That's anyone who has a split lot.
Any other, Mr. Curtis?
Yeah, I'm always interested in arguments and how they kind of stack up. So, but I'm looking at plenty of space for 2 houses, and the idea that the corner lot may need further variance. Yep, it may. Yep, but I don't think that precludes the concept of putting a house there. We have some irregularity to the shape, but that's pretty normal in the neighborhood. And so, yeah, I think I'll be not supportive of this. I was, you know, not sure, so I kept my mouth shut and listened a long time. But in the end, I think I'm not in support of this particular motion. So,
any other comments? Mr. Klatt?
Well, I think I asked an initial question to Juliana about how far does staff look out when they're comparing lots. And as I open up the report, and it is 300 feet. But I think when you step back, and I'm looking at the report again, and when you step back, a lot of the homes in the area are 50 feet. I mean, if you look at the ones that are directly surrounding that, sure, there are some larger, but in a broader context, I think a lot of the homes are smaller lots, 52 feet, 50 feet. The house, as Mr. Chair brought up, the house directly across the street to the north, that corner lot's much smaller. Those are two 50-foot lots there. So I think right in that general area, as Mr. Curtis mentioned, I think it could support 2 homes. Yeah, it may need the variance, and that's something we'd have to take upon or listen to if they do come in front of us, but hopefully they can design a house that would be compliant. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, not seeing any other hands, I will go ahead and call for the roll call vote, which of course is a motion to deny the request. All those in favor of the motion to deny indicate. I'll go through the roll call. Ms. Robinson? You're on mute. Nancy, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. I'm agreeing with the motion.
Okay, so you're a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Klatt?
No.
Mr. Kroll?
No.
Mr. Curtis?
No.
Mr. Opak?
Yes.
I vote no. Ms. Zukin?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
All right, so the motion, 1, 2, 3. The motion is tied at 4-4, so that is Mr. Calusi, if I'm correct, that motion that does pass. The motion to deny?
No, these 5 votes.
Well, yeah, it needs 5.
It needs 5 affirmative votes to pass, so do we need a reverse motion since we're tied at 4-4? What's procedurally, what do we need to do here?
I mean, Ryan, do you?
Well, I don't believe that the motion passes because it was 4-4.
Right.
Right, they
But
need
if
5 affirmative
people's-
votes and they got 4 affirmative votes.
Well, I mean, they would need 5 for the variance to pass, but I don't think the motion to deny is passed because it was only 4-4.
All right, Mr. Calusi, procedurally, do you want a motion on the other side of the table and another vote?
I think you would have to. It would have to go the other way. Yes.
Right. Is somebody prepared to introduce a motion to accept?
If I could also just remind the board to please make sure either way that you're discussing the practical difficulties. Sometimes we have, don't want to say that we're just talking hardship, but it is a practical difficulty or not.
All right. Mr. Kroll?
Yes, I will make the motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Kroll
Second.
and a second by Mr. Curtis. On this side, do you want to follow up with any more comments, Mr. Kroll?
No, we seem to be in an impasse. I hope someone will change their vote so we get out of an impasse. But other than that, I have nothing more to say.
All right. Mr. Opak?
I would like someone on the pro side to go through the practical difficulties on the variances to see how they are in the practical difficulties, and maybe then you will change your vote, or maybe you'll see that maybe they're not there. So if you'd like to do that.
Mr. Curtis or Mr. Kroll?
I guess I'm seeing a practical difficulty in the fact that that at one point it was two lots and it can certainly hold 2 houses. So I think that's a practical difficulty. It certainly is in the owner's best interest, but also I believe in the interest of the neighborhood. I thought that the ranch was kind of out of sight there design wise. And I think 2 more houses designed more to look like that neighborhood would be an asset to the neighborhood. So I guess you can look at any of these things and decide how you're going to design them.
Mr. Curtis, any follow-up?
Well, this neighborhood is full of irregular. You mentioned it, and you live in this neighborhood, and irregular is the norm in this neighborhood. So, and the fact that they, have 2 platted lots here, although had been combined originally to build one house. Clearly, there was a time where it was thought of as two spaces for two houses, and for them to not be able to, whatever they said, you know, I understand that they didn't go into detail why they're not building one bigger house, but it was their intention to be able to build one bigger house, and it's not a possibility at this point. Well, I don't see where two houses that can fit very much like the houses across the street and behind them are somehow out of place in this community. I think they fit in this community quite nicely. So the fact that there's some irregularity on this corner seems to be a hardship to fit two houses, just because it isn't a rectangular lot, it has that angle to it. So I think it's reasonable to place two houses there.
Mr. Olfak?
Can someone specifically go through the non-use variances, A through D, and then additional criteria for land divisions, A through C, and speak towards that? Although you guys have good arguments, they're not speaking towards those criteria that we're supposed to be voting on. So I would like someone on the pro side to speak to those, please.
I'm not sure this is really designed to be a debate, Anthony.
Well, I'm not trying to make it, but I'm voting non-bias. I'm always trying to vote per the stuff and non-bias.
I understand it. And by the book, you're absolutely right, Anthony. If in fact, I would find it of a practical difficulty to own this property in the middle of properties behind and in front, and every behind and in front could do it, but they can't. So if I own this property, I would have a problem with that. I don't know where you put that practical difficulty at, but in reality, why are the people to the north and the south of them able to do it and they're not? We are an appeal.
Because of the administrative.
Yeah, that's not a good, that's not.
Well, for me personally,
No, Anthony.
I will be voting in favor of the lot split. And for me, the one criteria that I keep going back to is criteria 2B. The variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. I simply believe that the layout of this parcel as originally platted with two separate parcels and two separate single-family homes would do more justice to the neighborhood and fitting in with the character of the neighborhood and the typical overwhelming amount of houses in the neighborhood going outside of the simple 300-foot boundary that we typically use when making these judgments. The two lots being proposed going neighborhood wide, as you get closer to my house, which I'm probably 1,000 feet from this parcel, the two lots, I think, do more justice to me and my neighbors and what we get to look at versus one very large lot with one very large ranch on it. I think the justice would be done to both the applicant and, more importantly, to the neighborhood. So that is the main criteria why I would be voting in favor of the split. Mr. Klatt.
Yeah, just one thing, and I typically vote for consistency of lot width, but for item 3A, the width, size, and general character of the lots in the neighborhood and area. It's not lots in that immediate block or lots to the 300 feet. It's general character. So step back to the broader stroke. I think it is fairly consistent with the general lot widths in the neighborhood, not the lot to the left or right, but general.
Thank you, Mr. Klatt.
All right.
Thank you.
Not seeing any of the comments, I will go ahead and call for the roll call vote, and this time we're voting in favor of the lot split. All those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Ms. Anderson?
No.
Ms. Zukin?
No.
I vote yes. Mr. Olfak?
No.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes.
Mr. Klatt?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Need to unmute.
No.
All right. So the motion to approve the lot split does fail by a 4-4 vote.
So we're at an impasse.
Mr. Kaluzny?
doesn't seem to be an impasse, the motion failed,
Yeah,
right?
the motion fails. I mean,
Yeah,
and
then you
a
need-
4-4 vote, the motion fails. Is that not correct, Mr. Calusi? We need 5 affirmative votes, and they did not get them.
Correct. They would need 5 affirmative votes. There are only 4.
Okay. So thereby, procedurally speaking, the motion does fail.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. All right,
Even though
folks. I apologize, but your request does not pass this evening. I apologize for that, and we certainly appreciate you coming in front of us this evening.
Mr. Kaluzny.
Have a great night. Did I hear a question from Mr. Calusi?
Yeah, they were gonna ask him a question.
Mr. Kaluzny?
Yes.
Oh, this is John Canaris. I spoke to you yesterday or earlier today. I can't recall. You do recall that, right? I'm the attorney for the Frosts.
Yes. Yeah, we spoke on the phone yesterday.
Okay, we'll be speaking again, I assure you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so at this point, we will move backwards to item number D1, which is old and unfinished business. I think I'll just turn it right over to Ms. Sherhart, and I see Mr. Gavin has joined us. Good evening, sir. As we made some motions last month, and there's been some modifications that were submitted today, so rather than me reading through things that have changed, I'll just go ahead and hand you the ball, ma'am, and let you explain where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Well, hold on, sir. We're going to start with Ms. Sherhart. I want to get the staff information first.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to pull up the revised plan. So we did receive a revision earlier today. Since it came at that late time, I'm not certain whether the board had been able to review it beforehand. So I just wanted to navigate to that. The one change that I was able to detect was a decrease in the size of the garage from 1,008 square feet to 872 square feet. So this would change both the variance request E for the maximum allowable ground floor area waiver, as well as F, which was for the percentage of the maximum allowable accessory structure lot coverage. And additionally, it would change the request for total lot coverage. I'm happy to take any questions now, or we can turn it over to the petitioner and have him explain the revisions in more detail.
Are there any questions for Ms. Sherhart at this point? Ms. Zuka. You're on mute.
Do you know what the percentage of lot coverage is now?
Yeah, so let me go to I thought I had made some notes here, but now I can't find them. Hold on one moment.
Take your time.
I think his calculations are in the lower left-hand corner of the drawing.
Okay, so from what I could tell, there was no change in the size of the covered patio or the covered entrance to the rear of the home. And so taking just the change size of the garage, the total lot coverage request went from 24% waiver to 21.8%. And the accessory structure waiver would go from 348 square feet to 212 square feet. And the accessory structure percentage waived would be from 5.3% to 3.2%.
Thank you.
Here. All right. Any other questions for Ms. Sherhart at this point? All right, not seeing any. I see the petitioner is present. Sir, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much for allowing me to come back this month. I really appreciate it. I also apologize that I had a meeting in Lansing and had some very poor connection earlier. Thank you for allowing me to join just a little bit later. I'm in the car currently. I spoke with my architect quite a few times and we reviewed the plan. One of my primary concerns was due to this building, not having any basement. There at the last meeting, so I also hopefully with what you perceive as a reasonable, we reduced the size of the garage. We shrunk it by 5 feet. I know there's some questions also. I really would have liked to have considered keeping the current, parking spot sort of as is corner of the building. We also added an additional expense tearing out the asphalt that is currently there, installing percolating pavers so that we can more effectively deal with a water runoff issue, which we thought visually would be really nice, and it would be also better for the general water runoff situation. So hopefully this is a plan that we're able to approve today.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the petitioner at this point? All right, not seeing any. Does anybody have any specific questions, or is anybody prepared to take action? Mr. Elfack.
Well, I'll since I did the motioning last time, I'll motion to grant the variances based upon their revised plans that were left. I think that's E, F, and H. I think were the only ones left that need to get voted on, if I'm correct.
And I see a second by Mr. Kroll. And before I do anything else here, Ms. Sherhart, are you in agreement with Mr. Elfack in terms of the items that we need to cover in this motion?
No, there also was the variance request for the width of the driveway. So there was no change with these plans because the permeable pavers are a driving surface. They are technically considered, part of the driveway.
Okay. So then I also, in accordance with meeting what this plan has intended.
Okay.
I support that.
And that's okay with Mr. Kroll. All right, Mr. Elfack, any follow-up comments?
It was nice for him to go back and try and cut down the garage. I mean, he cut it down a good over 100 square feet easily. And I agree, you still need somewhat of a garage there. And with him not being able to have basement, he needs storage somewhere. And the driveway, by putting in those permeable pavers, that'll be a lot nicer than having it all concrete there. The grass will eventually grow in there, and if he uses a certain kind. So I have no problem with what he's going towards. And this is a unique building and a unique lot. So I have no problem with trying to do this and meeting with the spirit.
Excuse me, Mr. Kroll, any follow-up?
Yeah, I appreciate that he went back and heard us and made some changes. I've always thought that building at this point really was the only office building in a sea of residences. So sometimes we're trying to put buildings in residential areas. This is really putting a resident in a residential area. So I think it's a great project.
Any other comments? All right, not seeing any. I will, Ms. Anderson.
I was just going to say I had to unmute myself, that the only issue I had with it was the size of the garage, and they did pare that down. So I didn't have a problem with anything else on this. It's a definitely unique property. It'll fit into the residential neighborhood now. So it'll do substantial justice to the neighbors, and It fits the criteria, I believe. So, especially without having to dismantle everything in this regard. So,
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, not seeing any, I will go ahead and call for the roll call vote. Ms. Robinson,
Yes, I'm in favor.
Mr. Clapp,
Yes.
Mr. Gavin,
Yes.
Mr. Kroll,
Yes.
Mr. Curtis,
Yes.
Mr. Olfak.
Yes.
I vote yes. Ms. Zukin
Yes.
and Ms. Anderson.
yes.
All right, your motion does pass unanimously, sir. You are all set.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help. Thank you so much for the consideration.
All right, sir, have a great night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
He might have, when he sleeps at night, he might see dancing little girls in there.
I will not touch that comment.
Yeah, I guess it didn't come out the way I was thinking.
I get it. I get
it.
All right, moving right along to our first item of new business, which is case E1, case number 200921, public hearing on the appeal of Luke Connor, petitioner and owner for the following variances. Waive 1 of the maximum allowable number of driveways per property. Waive 2 of the maximum number of accessory structures per property. C, waive 402.4 square feet of the maximum allowable accessory structure ground floor area of 800 square feet. And D, finally, to waive 1.1% of the maximum allowable 10% lot coverage for accessory structures. And E, waive the requirement that an accessory structure garage either have a mansard, hip, gambrel, or gable roof concept compatible with the principal structure to retain an existing attached accessory structure garage and drive approach, and construct a new detached accessory structure garage and drive approach located at 506 South Wilson. Ms. Sherhart.
Great, so let me share my screen. Okay, so this parcel is located at the southwest corner of East 5th Street and South Wilson. It is zoned 1 family residential. Presently, let me just actually go to the existing site plan. So presently the home has a 1-story single family home with an attached garage of 550 square feet. Additionally, there are 2 sheds on the property totaling about 125 square feet and 48 square feet. So zoning standards limit the number of accessory structures on a property to 2, 1 detached and 1 attached. So this property is actually already non-conforming with regard to the number of accessory structures. So the request before you is to add a detached accessory structure with an additional curb cut. So the first request relates to the number of accessory structures on the property. The request would be to waive 2 of the maximum number allowed to allow a total of 4, including those 2 sheds. The second request would be to allow a second curb cut. Zoning standards allow for 1 curb cut or drive approach per single family residential property. So that is the next request before you. And then getting into the details of the garage. The size of the proposed garage is 480 square feet, taking into account the existing attached garage along with the sheds, gives accessory structure ground floor area of 1,202.4 square feet. The maximum size for this property, which is 10,789 square feet, would be 800 square feet. And so the request is to waive 402.4 square feet of the maximum allowable accessory structure ground floor area. Additionally, with that added garage, the lot coverage for accessory structures would exceed the 10% maximum by 1.1%. So there is a variance request to waive that 1.1% of allowable accessory structure lot coverage. And then lastly, there is a zoning requirement whereby the roof of an accessory structure should match that of the primary structure and have either a mansard, hip, gambrel, or gable roof concept. This structure is proposing a flat roof, and so there is a variance request to waive that design requirement. I believe those are the highlights of the request.
Right.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Sherhart at this point? All right, not seeing any. I see that Mr. Connor is present. The floor is yours, sir. Tell us about your plan, and are you on mute? We cannot hear you, Mr. Connor.
Can you hear me now?
There you are. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Tell us about your plan.
Okay. So let me first say thank you very much for taking the time this evening to speak with me on this requesting of these variances. Just to kind of give you a little bit of backstory, I'm an Air Force veteran. I've moved around a lot with my wife. We've been together for 20 years. And we really like the area. This is actually one of our favorite places we've came to live in, and we really like it here. I've been here for about 4 years. We live on a corner lot for a single-story ranch. And we do have an attached garage, but the garage that we currently have is kind of small when it comes to fitting my vehicle into it. Additionally, when we have the storage, we don't really have a whole lot of storage because we also don't have a basement. And during the winter time, when I'm trying to find a place for my truck to be able to park, a lot of times I have to park kind of sideways in the side and not in kind of straddling my driveway, or because if I try to park actually in front of my driveway, I actually block the street for pedestrians. And I don't like to do that because then that makes them have a chance for slipping or anything like that. And then additionally, my truck gets hit by a lot of the branches or other debris that's falling from the trees, squirrels knocking off branches or whatnot. So, also, I'm not really able to work on any of my vehicles that I like to. When I was in the military, that's one of the things that's my passion. I really love to work on vehicles, but I don't really have anywhere that I can do that because of the garage that I currently have. It has a low roof inside, so I can't really get, even if I do get a vehicle in, it's very hard to get it up in the air. Necessarily to be able to actually do something on it. The variances that I'm trying for is to be able to have a second curb cut because since this addition or the detached garage would be in the backyard, I would need another way to access it. I wouldn't be able to drive into my driveway that I currently have. And then also I would need a little bit larger space for the garage so that I could be able to fit my vehicle in it, but also be able to have a little working room in there. We love being here in Michigan, and storage is kind of a necessity that we don't have because we want to take advantage of a lot of this outdoor activities like kayaking and different things, but we really don't have anywhere to store it. And I really don't want to leave it in the backyard or anything like that. I know that's against ordinance as well. So I just want to make sure that I, am able to do that. And then I just really have loved being here in this city, and that's why I'm asking for these variances to be able to use the property that we have, we sit on kind of a double lot for the size. So we have plenty of space, at least in our eyes, to be able to use it. And then the reason why I wanted to go with it's not necessarily a flat roof, it's actually going to have a bit of a pitch to it, was to be able to have that height inside the garage, to be able to, again, since it's my passion to be able to work on cars, is to be able to have a car lift so that I can work on a sports car that I have, but I can't really work on. And to be able to do things like that. So that having that higher roof would allow me to be able to do that. And then also to give me a little bit more storage in there. Additionally, having that extra storage from the garage, having an addition in garage will give me some extra storage inside my current detached garage to be where we can rearrange it and be able to store some of our household winter clothes so we don't have to go up into the attic. So this is why I'm asking for these variants. I hope that you grant them for me.
Any questions for the petitioner at this point? Mr. Ofac, then Mr. Klatt.
So this isn't a plan, you're planning on keeping the original garage and you're wanting this
Yes, sir.
second garage, correct?
Correct, sir.
So then unfortunately, by the way that we go through this, you have to indicate what practicality difficulties of not being able to use that garage for, you're saying basically you want to be able to work on it as well as store your vehicle. Yeah, correct?
Correct. And I cannot fit my my truck into my garage right now. My garage is 20 feet wide, or the max distance in. That doesn't really give me any wiggle room for my truck. My truck is at 19, almost 20 exactly. So it doesn't really give me any anywhere for me to have that little bit of comfort, you know, for I can do it.
Okay. And the other question I had was on our plat that we have of your lot, it shows like two little outbuildings.
Yes.
Oh, if we grant you this garage, would any of those come down, or would those remain and you have even storage too?
So the long one would be the one that would be going down.
Okay.
So I wouldn't really necessarily need it for any storage. So that one could easily come down.
I believe I have Mr. Klatt with you, and then Ms. Zukin.
Good evening. Yeah, I think Mr. Ofac, you tackled one of my questions. You know, as we look, as an architect looking at this, we're always looking at ways to maybe cut down the variance requests, maybe the sheer number of them, or even the size of them. So in this case, you're looking for 5, but like Mr. Ofac mentioned, if you remove those 2 outbuildings, that could possibly get you down to that 10%. It would also waive the requirement. It would get you down to 2 accessory structures. And then the roof too. I understand the need for the height, but if you were to do a roof that maybe is more compatible with the house, like for example, the scissor truss would allow you to get a vault within that roof. So I believe a lift, you need about 11 feet of clear height to get a vehicle lift to work, maybe stack 2.
Yes, sir.
So you might be able to pull that off. So what I'm saying is, if you're open to removing the outbuildings, I mean, doing the math on this, I think if you could even increase the size of that detached garage to, let's see, 524 square feet, when you add that to the existing garage, I think you'd still be under that 10% coverage. So not trying to redesign this here on the fly, but I think you could cut these variances down to 2, which would be significant. So just my 2 cents.
And that's something I'd be definitely very willing to do, is to get rid of the smaller one. The larger one is, to be honest, it's a bot shed. It's a tough shed. So it'd be harder to get rid of than that one. So doing that, and also I'd be willing to change the design of the roof as well. I have thought about it, and I've talked to several people about as another option to still be able to go with a gable roof, because of where the midpoint of the garage would be. for the roof, that I could actually go with that. So that one I'd be willing to, or not willing, I would say that one could be foregone.
Yeah, I think I just blend with the house better too. So that'd be a nice one.
Right.
Ms. Zukin, I think I had you next.
Yeah, well, Mr. Ofek and Mr. Klatt did cover 2 of my 3 questions and issues. The third one was, what are you planning to do with the attached garage now? Is that going to be all storage?
So what we plan to do is we're going to make it into some more storage. My wife has plans of what she would like done with that garage once my tools are out of it. And she wants to be able to park her car in there a little bit better, so it's not so tight, and so that she can actually access it and be able to get the groceries out and whatnot. So that's part of the plan, is to do that, and then also to be able to take things out of the attic and to put it down in the garage, in the detached garage, to be able to store it there. We're not getting any younger. We plan to be here for a good amount of time, and things get really hot up there in the attic. We've noticed that some of our decorations and some of our items that we've had for many years have melted.
I guess what I was getting at with that is, could you put 2 cars in the other garage and just use the attached garage for storage and get rid of the need for for having 2 driveways? Because you would just use the second garage for parking, but you're saying you can't put both cars in the new garage?
No, I have it as built being as about a car and a half with having the lift in there, because I do want to be able to work in there, not only on cars, but also if I have house projects or anything, to be able to keep some of the smells and some of the sawdust or anything else from being brought into the house.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Robinson.
Need to unmute.
There I am. Yeah, I'm glad you really like that neighborhood, because I actually grew up there, and that neighborhood, that park and all that is dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Just 2 things that I like: the fact that you want to still use your attached garage for a garage, that you're actually going to use, not to have your cars in garages. The one thing I didn't care for really was the single slope design of the garage you had. I think if you had a roof to the garage that you want to build that looks more like the house would be more in flavor with the neighborhood, and if you can do that with what you want to do, I think it'd be a good thing to do.
Okay,
that's it.
Mr. Kroll.
Yes. Have you spoken with your neighbors, and what is their reaction?
Most of my neighbors that I've talked to, they are kind of devil's advocates. They're like, oh, you can do this and that, and it would look really nice if you do this. Actually, one of my neighbors is talking me out of doing the slant roof and to do a gable. And to how to put it in so that it matches the neighborhood. That's the reason why we have the house going, or the garage going the direction that it is, so that it kind of falls in line with it. I've talked to my neighbors, and they're all, at least for my part, they seem like they're on board. We get along with our neighbors really well. So,
did you have any petitions or anything signed by them saying they were all for this?
For or against? No.
Thank you.
I could see if get a petition for them to be for it, I guess.
Well, let me
We
ask
do
a
have-
question. Go ahead, Mr. Hart. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to point out to the board that there was one letter in support and one in opposition that we had received that were included with your packet.
Oh, okay.
Just at the very end.
So my question for you, Ms. Sherhart, would be this. I mean, there seems to be some talk about him being amenable to redesigning the garage with a gable concept or something that's more compatible with the neighborhood, and then would also eliminate the need for variance E.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that we should be doing here this evening, or would you prefer that we table this motion so that he can work with staff on a design that is acceptable by your department, and then we could reconsider it with the new design at the following meeting?
Well, I think it's possible that if he felt comfortable, he could just withdraw that request for the roof design and understand that, you know, whatever he does go forward with would need to meet zoning requirements or he'd have to return.
Okay. And before I go any further with this, Mr. Connor, we are, oh wait, no, we're up to a full board now, aren't we? Never mind. I forgot Mr. Gavin showed up. I was going to give you an opportunity to wait till next month, but we do have a full board. So with that in mind, you heard the question that I asked Ms. Sherhart. Do you want to chime in on that? Let me know your thoughts in terms of the design of the garage itself.
I would withdraw the I guess E
Okay.
for and opt for the gable roof.
Okay. Did I see your hand, Mr. Kroll?
No, I'll wait till we get back to our side of the table.
Okay, so then,
I have a question. Do you know?
Yes.
Do you know what the square footage is of your attached garage? I'm trying to figure it out because you have the two accessory structures, so I'm not sure.
550 square feet approximately. So the existing garage is 550. The sort of squarish shed is about 125 square feet, and this sort of oblong shed is 48 square feet.
Yeah, I remembered that, but I wasn't sure about the interior one things.
Mm-hmm.
who did I see next? We'll go with Mizuki and then Mr. Ofac.
Okay, Mr. Connor, did you agree earlier that you were going to take down those other two sheds? If
The one.
Just one?
The smaller one. The smaller one is can definitely go down. The other one would be more difficult.
Because of how it's constructed?
Because I bought it. I bought it from Tough Shed to put it in there. Originally, we needed a storage for a lawnmower, and that's, you know, different things to get it out of the garage. And the more we've been here, the more we realized we needed more space, and that the current garage we have doesn't necessarily need it. That was the attempt at the additional storage, but the additional storage can easily come down. I know that it's the smaller shed. It's by a good amount. It's almost a third of the size of the other one. But the larger one, I would prefer to keep that one.
Mr. Ofac.
So that would mean you could reduce B to waive 1 of the maximum allowable accessory structure, and C subtract what will be nice and say 40 instead of 48, just in case a little bit of square feet off of that. Okay.
Well, is anybody prepared to take action at this point?
That would touch a little bit of D, but probably 1% at best. Or sorry, not 0.1%, not 1%.
It would change it to waiving 0.7% instead of 1.1
Okay, thank you.
without the smaller shed.
Okay, thank you.
Is anybody prepared to take action at this point?
What side of the table is this on right now?
We are on our side of the table, sir.
Okay. Well, I have a quick question before action, because I know last month, Clyde, you had a problem with the guy with the 2 driveways, of which they were already there. Here we have 1 driveway with the possibility of 1. What's your feeling on this one versus what happened last month?
Okay. Well, I was going to wait to chime in until we actually had a motion on the table, but
Can I?
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, I will make a motion to deny both variances that still exist, or all 3 if they still exist.
We have a motion by Mr. Kroll.
I'll support for discussion's sake.
And we have a second by Mr. Ofac. Mr. Kroll?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ofac. I guess I got to go with Anthony's theme tonight. I didn't even come close to hearing any practical difficulties. I think I stayed up for the whole thing, but like I said, I don't think we came close to one. I would love to see everybody that comes in front of us get what they want. It would certainly enhance this gentleman's life, loves living in Royal Oak, and thank you for your service to our country, sir. But I must remind my fellow members here that when we grant a variance, we grant it for the property for life. There may not be any trucks. There may not be the need for storage. If I'm living across the street, I'm thinking that's very congested, putting up another structure there, especially in that size. I worry about home businesses starting in these large structures. They've had that problem in the past. When I served on Berkeley's years ago, we had a whole rash of those. And certainly he's not in front of us to start a business. But once this house is turned a couple of times, who knows what we're going to land up down the road. And that's why there's been a strong movement against major garages. We give 800 feet. That's for most people in a city with 40 and 50-foot lots, that's got to be sufficient. If you want to work on cars, then I think you have to think in terms of areas with more land. That it gives you the affordability to have lifts and be able to raise cars and do things like that. But again, I've not heard of practical difficulty.
Well, let me chime in here since Mr. Alfeck already mentioned my name on this. I'm not taking quite the harsh view that Mr. Kroll is in terms of what Mr. Connor is trying to accomplish here. Quite frankly, 0.07% doesn't give me much heartache, and quite frankly, if he walked up and kicked in one of the corners, he'd probably be under the maximum allowable 10% anyways. The only reason that I would be voting against supporting this proposal is because of the two driveways. We had a similar proposal last month, not exactly the same, but the person wanted to do some work on their home and keep an existing driveway and add an existing driveway. And I really feel in those types of neighborhoods, for the continuity of the neighborhoods, that each one of these homes should have a single driveway. If you were able to come up with a plan so that you were able to utilize putting an accessory structure in back, and obviously, like I said, the lot coverage doesn't give me heartache whatsoever. And if you wanted to have a garage in your backyard like virtually everybody else does, that doesn't bother me either. The maximum allowable structures in the backyard, I think we could work our way through that. But for me personally, it is just very simply the second driveway for me does not work in my opinion. Are there any other comments?
Well, I'm having difficulty with that too, Clyde, because I think last month, so I wasn't able to attend, that the driveways were already there. This is, you're going to implement a new driveway. I appreciate the fact that you would change the roof on the house, but I also believe that, we all would like to have everything we want in this town, and it's not always the case. We have our variances, we have our rules. Having a structure that is for a hobby purpose is wonderful, but it doesn't always fit in with our variances. And I haven't really heard a practical difficulty here. So I'm torn, but that's what I would say.
Mr. Alfeck. Good. Well, I'll put Anthony on pause for 1 second. Go ahead, Mr. Connor, please.
So, and maybe I haven't voiced it enough, because we do have a driveway, but we don't have a driveway. Reason being is because we're so close, I don't have anywhere to park a vehicle without actually being a block on pedestrian traffic. So that can become a hardship, especially in the wintertime, because there's been, last winter, I know that there were several times to where, because of the snow, it's very hard to find some place to park. Yes, I can park in the street, and I know that I can get a waiver to be able to park in the street even when they're doing snow removal. But that, I feel like I'm being selfish to my neighbors by doing that, because then they have to deal with the snow that's piling up around that as well. I don't want to block people as they're walking around. I've had people even just to unload my vehicle. I've had people scoff and like, why is this guy parking in the driveway? Even though I was still in the garage. But I can hear people, you know, with their comments or riding around. I know that one of my neighbors has had some vandalism done to his car, you know, because of parking there. So we really do try to not park in those driveways, to be considerate of other people. And then in the winter months, it's tough. And I know I can't park in my yard. So that's one difficulty there. And then even with parking in the garage, yes, my truck, you know, maybe in the future somebody else won't be having a truck. And you make a good point, a good argument on that. But people still need to be able to walk around the vehicle and be able to use it a little bit more. So being able to park in the garage, yes, with my truck maybe isn't necessarily the thing that in the future people are going to have, but people are going to have issues with the storage, not having anywhere to go through. Attic space is good if you can use it and be able to access it constantly. So we need to have that storage that's in the garage. So I get it. I definitely do that. You know, times change, people change, cars get smaller, cars get bigger, you know, as time goes by. But I really don't have a driveway. And because of the way my house sits, there's no possibility of, if I build a garage, that I could make a continuation of the current driveway that I have.
Juliana, I have a question.
Yep.
It has to do with, can he pave the backside and make kind of a curve where he could park sideways right against the house? I think he can, as long as he doesn't make the curb cut any bigger.
Technically not, because it's a corner lot. He has 2 front yards and parking is not permitted in the front yard.
Oh, he's got the 2 front yards. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha. All right. I was trying to troubleshoot for him. Thank
We've
you.
got Mr. Clanton and Mr. Opak.
Just one quick question for Mr. Connor. I think you mentioned this and it was in the report. You don't have a basement too, is that correct? Is there a basement in the home?
I'm on a crawl.
I mean, that's one luxury that a lot of Royal Oak homes has. They have a basement for storage. So that's one hardship you could also claim too. The need for the storage is because you don't have that basement. But another question is, I'm looking at the street view. I did notice when I drove by, those 3 mature trees in that right of way. Would that driveway impact or cause one of those to come down, or would it sneak in between? I didn't see the trees on the site plan, so I'm just curious as to.
It actually goes right. So the way that it would work, and there is enough space between the tree and my property line with my neighbor, and still gives like 2 feet, I think, to be able to come on and drive in.
Thank you.
We thought about going in between the trees as well, and if that's something that we would have to do, we could, but the other way works good.
So they can all stay. All 3 trees can stay.
Yeah, I like the trees. But
I like them too.
Mr. Opak and Mr. Kroll.
No, the trees definitely is what makes Royal Oak, and unfortunately too many of them get chopped down.
Yeah. They took my grain, so yeah.
Yeah. I'm torn only on the driveway on this, and that's why I wanted to hear from you, Clyde. Mostly because I agree, the hardship is he's got a double lot basically on a corner, on a house that doesn't have a basement, and his driveway between the garage and the sidewalk is too short to park a vehicle. So the hardship is, while many Royal Oak houses have at least that space between the driveway and the garage to park that vehicle, he does not. So having that other space to put it, going through the hardships, it does provide relief for neighbors on the street and safety-wise of getting one more vehicle off the street, especially in time of snow when he can't fit in there. Now, granted, could he have gotten a vehicle that fit in the garage instead of a bigger truck?
Yes.
But I think the hardship of having the double lot and having no space between the garage and the sidewalk is why I had no problem with the garage aspect of even the size of it. My concern was just the second driveway. That's why I was trying to find out what he was going to do. Because heck, if he wanted to make it a 2.5 car garage and take that other garage and turn it into a house, I'm almost would have been fine with that, because then he would have got rid of that driveway. So I'm still torn on the driveway aspect of it, but the rest of it, I totally understand the practical hardship he has with his lot in this case.
Mr. Kroll.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a stretch, Anthony. By the way, just for clarification, storage is not a practical difficulty, nor are trees. So, I mean, when you buy a house, the storage you have is the storage you have. It's not a practical difficulty if you need more. So, I mean, we kind of got to look. If we're going to look at the practical difficulties trying, let's really look at it.
Yep.
All right, are there any other comments from the board at this point? Mr. Gavin.
I think on this particular motion that's on the table, I think I'm going to be voting against it solely because I am actually in agreement with Clyde and Anthony on the lot coverage issue. The driveway is presenting problems for me too, but I'm starting to lean actually towards being okay with it. But certainly on the lot coverage, I don't have an issue.
Any other comments? All right, so just to be clear, Ms. Shearhart, the motion on the table as presented is to deny A, B, C, and D as modified with the new numbers?
Correct.
Okay, so I will call for the vote on that motion, and I'll start at the top this time. Ms. Anderson? Ms. Anderson, you're on mute.
I support the denial.
Ms. Zukin?
I'm going to have to reluctantly support it.
I vote in favor of the denial. Mr. Ofac?
I will vote in favor of the denial because I'd prefer something else.
Mr. Curtis?
I am going to vote no on this motion.
Okay. Mr. Kroll?
I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Gavin?
No.
Mr. Klatt?
No.
Ms. Robinson?
Wait, can I?
Hold on, let me get Ms. Robinson's vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I voted yes for the denial of what Mr. Kroll denied, and then he voted. Wait, I'm because I thought you said no instead of yes. So I'm voting against the. The
motion was to deny the 4 variances as requested with the modifications with the new numbers presented this afternoon.
Correct. So
and you voted yes, and
voted in favor of the motion, right?
And Mr. Kroll voted in favor of his own motion.
Right.
Oh, well, then I'm voting in favor. Wait, I'm voting to deny. I'm sorry. It was.
So you're voting in favor of the denial?
Yes, correct. That's
Okay.
what I.
All right. All right, so with that, then the motion to deny does pass 7-2, if I did my math correct. Is that correct, Ms. Shearhart?
It was
3.
6-3.
6-3, I'm sorry.
In support.
Okay. In support of the denial. Oh, there it is. My mistake. I was tracking it wrong. All right. All right, Mr. Conner, we certainly appreciate your time. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Have a great night, sir.
Can I just ask one question?
Of course.
So the denial is based on the drive, correct? So if for the driveway. So if the driveway, if we were to have plans to convert the the current garage, and make a different driveway, then there would be no problem. I just want to understand.
No, absolutely, and I'll let Mr. Kaluzny back me up on this in case I misword this. As you have been granted a denial, you can't come back in front of us for a full year unless the plan is significantly different. Now, if you come up with a plan where you get rid of the secondary driveway or you completely redesign the driveway, it would be up to staff to determine if that's enough of a change to come in front of us again, or you may come up with a plan that doesn't require any variances whatsoever. So I guess my question for you would be, if you make enough of a change to what was denied this evening, then there's no reason you couldn't come in front of us again within that year time period, given if that's the correct case. Would you agree, Mr. Kaluzny?
I would agree with that, but that'd probably be a question for Juliana to discuss how.
Yeah, that's typically how we've handled it. If the plan is substantially different, then staff can make the determination that another request can be made. But again, it is an entirely new application fee and new notice to the neighborhood and all of that. So that would be required.
So if I would remove and I don't know, maybe I've missed that opportunity to do it, but if I remove the second curb cut as being for the variance, then it would still be able to be on the table, or
well,
not?
the motion already has sort of transpired, but it sounds like, based on this conversation, that if there were a design that did not include a second curb cut, then the board might be amenable to granting variances relative to the square footage of the accessory structure on the parcel. And I can follow up with, yep.
I was going to say, since there's this discussion, do we want to, I was going to say table it to come back, let them do, but yeah, probably not.
No, I mean, we've already made the motion, but
yeah.
But Mr. Connor, what I want to make clear to you was, because obviously there is a process involved with what we do here. No. So I don't want you to think that, you're going to be stuck with this decision for an entire year. If you go back to Juliana's department with changes that her department, deems as being enough of a change where it's substantially different from what was denied this evening, then we can certainly take another bite at the apple.
Yeah, and as staff, I'm gonna follow up with a transmittal of a record of what was actually voted on tonight, and we can kind of talk about next steps.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Right.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so moving right along to our final case, which is case number, let me have this correct, E3, case number 200922, public hearing on the appeal, Debbie Kleinholmer, petitioner and owner for the following variance, waive 348 square feet of the maximum allowable accessory structure ground floor area of 800 square feet to permit construction of a 323 square foot addition to an existing detached garage plus an external staircase with a 150 square foot footprint located at 1919 West 12 Mile. Ms. Sherhart.
Sure, let me share my screen. Okay, so this property is located on the south side of West 12 Mile Road, east of Woodward. It is located in the one family residential large lot zoning district. Presently on the site is an existing single family home with a detached garage of 675 square feet. Let me go to the plans. So here's a view of the home from 12 Mile. And we have some photos taken by the petitioner of the existing garage. And then moving along to what is proposed. So a 323 square foot addition is proposed to be added to the south side of the existing garage. There would also be half story or upper story, let's say, added onto the structure, the height of which would be less than that 15 feet maximum height. And given the side yard setbacks that are being provided, the height proposed is adequate. Because there is this external staircase being added, we include that square footage in the accessory structure square footage. And so taking the size of the addition at 323 square feet, plus the footprint of the staircase at 150 square feet, we get a total accessory structure ground floor area of 1,148 square feet. Given the size of the lot, this results in an accessory lot coverage of 4.7%, so that is not an issue. However, there is an 800 square feet maximum for accessory structures in any zoning district, and therefore the petitioner is seeking a variance to waive 348 square feet of the maximum allowable accessory ground floor area of 800 square feet. Yeah, so do you have any questions for me?
So Ms. Sherhard, if 1,148 square feet represents 4.7% lot coverage, we're talking a lot that's roughly 20,000 square feet?
Correct. I should probably have that number in front of me.
It's in the thing.
Might be in the notes right here, right?
24,170 square feet.
Yeah, there we go.
Half an acre.
Any questions for Ms. Sherhard at this point? All right, not seeing any. Are the petitioners present?
I see the architect and the petitioner, if they could unmute themselves.
Hey there, can you hear me okay now?
We can hear you, we can't see you, sir.
See, I'm not sure why the video isn't working. I went in through Zoom, I've used it before.
Got the video button hit?
Oh, there you are.
I don't see him.
Well, Mr. Kleinheimer's there. We don't see Mr. Eldikin yet.
Do I pick start video?
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
There you are. All right.
Okay, hi everybody.
All right, gentlemen, tell us about your plan.
Sure. My name is Blake Elderkin, and I'm the architect that assisted Kevin and Debbie Kleinhomer on this addition. We've been looking at this for quite some time. One of the first things I do as an architect is the site analysis, and had to warn them up front basically that we had need for a variance if we pursued what they would like to have. Right now we're at 675 square feet of ground floor area with the current garage that exists. And we knew that the maximum allowable was 800. So we actually have, I could call it 125 square foot credit. One thing that we discovered when we submitted is that the Planning Commission is considering what we call this open deck on the plan part of the ground floor area, even though it's raised up, and I can understand where that viewpoint could be taken, but they've added that into the square footage. So what we tried to do originally was design this to go above and beyond what we knew was allowable. And the particular reason for that, and now that we've been through some of the other presentations from folks, we realize, storage isn't a necessarily legitimate practical difficulty, but for the reason for doing this project was for the Kleinhomers that they have a 3-stall garage right now, and they actually have 3 cars, and that leaves them with no space basically for storage for the large lawn equipment that's needed. And this is in the large single family zoning. So as you can tell by the square footage, somebody just asked in the acreage, this is substantially larger than some of their neighbors and typical lots that are in Royal Oak, when you get down to the 40 and 50 footers. So unfortunately, that 800 square feet doesn't apply to a standard if it were 10 acres or 0.25 of an acres. It's across the board. So we were hoping for some consideration of the fact that it is a large lot. And we have done our due diligence with going around to neighbors. And I think you'll see in the packet there, we've got included support from 2 of the adjacent neighbors. And I believe Kevin can verify this, but one of them was not available as they're out for the summer and wouldn't be returning soon. And we also took pictures from their backyards to simply show what's even visible for this. And again, just as additional information to kind of give you the context of the whole thing on this very large lot. So again, the path we're looking at basically is this is allowing us, and if you were to flip through some of those photos again, you see that they do have some bins and storage along the side of the garage. You'd like to move all that inboard. They like to be able to park all 3 of their cars in the stalls and then have this additional space behind to maintain the large, not large, but yard equipment that they use to service this larger lot.
Anything that you'd like to add, Mr. Kleinhomer?
Pardon?
Anything that you'd like to add, sir?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the petitioner, Ms. Anderson?
I was going to ask, from the aerial view, it looks like there is a shed attached to the garage currently, or a greenhouse, plus maybe another shed. Is this addition, will that be taking away those
Yes.
2? Yes, okay.
Yep, it's in the footprint of where we're planning to expand.
Right, that's what I thought, but I wanted to clarify for that.
Sure.
Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner at this point?
There are, if I could just point out too, there are a few extra, I'll call them bells and whistles with the open deck that's up there. And that's actually a feature that's kind of tucked on the inboard side of the lot. And it's actually kind of patterned on one of the neighbors having something similar to that. And this all falls within the zoning ordinance with the height restrictions and so on, but we're kind of taking advantage, if you see on the plan there, of having a second story because they'd like to use that as a kind of a relax area up there and be able to put any furnishings or anything in the winter kind of away in that storage space. And also the space below would be a footprint area for their pool equipment for the adjacent pool.
All right. Does anybody have any questions at all? All right. Is somebody prepared? I'll bring it back to this side of the table, and I see Mr. Opak.
Move to grant the variances as requested.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Gavin. Mr. Opak?
Going through the hardship on this, this is a very oversized lot, it being almost half an acre. So them being hamstringed by having the same size accessory structure is sort of their hardship. They aren't going totally huge on it. They actually are just doing a modest addition to it. And as is brought up, they are replacing some of the stuff that's already back there. So if you take that into account, it's probably even less of an increase to what's already considered. So I that it's in the backyard. No one's going to see it except their neighbors, and the neighbors, some of them have already signed off on it. So obviously, it's not going to do injustice to them if they feel. So because of that, I have no problem with granting this as requested.
All right. Any other comments?
I would just say that at 24,000 square feet, that's 4 lots. And they're only asking for a small percentage where you could, if you had 4 houses, you'd be having 3,200 square feet of garage. So it's, it seems, and a lot of cars. So it seems to work well on this lot. I'll support it.
Mr. Kroll?
Thank you.
Yeah, I will be supporting this. Practical difficulties are a little slight, but, and I think one of the things that hopefully we'll accomplish in a combination planning zoning meeting is to establish a garage. Certainly a structure on this size lot can be larger than the 800 feet we grant for everywhere. But what is that number? I'm kind of more comfortable with 1,000 than 1,100, but I think in this case, because it's hidden, and kind of private back there, no one will really see it. I can go along with this.
And I'll be supporting this motion also. The reasons already stated, and quite frankly, gentlemen, had you come to us in 3 months, this is actually an issue that we're going to be discussing in a joint meeting with the Plan Commission and ourselves coming up on the 30th in terms of how do we deal with accessory lots on lots as big as yours versus a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot lot. And I have a sneaking suspicion that 3 months from now, you wouldn't even be in front of us. So whose hand did I see? Was that Mizukin?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm going to support it also because of the lot size. And I'm also impressed that you're putting a second floor on here and you're not violating the height restrictions.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. I will go through the roll call vote. Ms. Robinson? Ms. Robinson?
Unmute.
I'm sorry, the mute thing. Yes, I support.
Mr. Klatt?
Yes, support.
Mr. Gavin?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll?
Yes, I support.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Ofac?
Yes.
I vote yes. Ms. Zukin?
Yes.
And Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
All right, your motion passes. You are all set.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we thank you very much, board. Do we receive any kind of formal written correspondence confirming such?
Ms. Sherrick can answer that.
Yeah, I will be sending you a motion letter that has the transcription from the decision tomorrow.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, we appreciate your time and consideration.
All right, gentlemen, have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I did want to bring up, I can't recall if I had added it to the agenda or not, but we needed to vote to approve of the time that the Planning Commission had voted to have the joint meeting. So they had voted on 6 p.m. on Wednesday, September 30th. So if the board could pass a motion to approve of that time, that would be great.
6 p.m. 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
September 30th at 6 p.m. Yes, sir. Mr. Kroll?
I'm good with that.
Can you make that into a motion, sir?
Yes, I'm motion 6 o'clock.
and Mr. Curtis is seconding
Oh,
it?
Curtis was second? Okay, great.
Ms. Anderson?
I'm good with it.
Ms. Zukin?
Fine.
I guess I'm good with it. Mr. Ofac?
Yay.
Mr. Curtis?
Yep.
We know that Mr. Kroll's good with it. Mr. Gavin?
Yes.
Mr. Klatt?
Yes.
And Ms. Robinson?
Yeah, I just don't want to yell at my dog again. Yes.
No worries. All right,
Okay.
so now that we have the meeting time established, are there any other issues that you want to discuss, Ms. Sherhart?
I just wondered if you had specific topics of conversation that you wanted to bring up to add to that agenda now, or you are welcome to send correspondence to Joseph or I.
Well, it's really a matter of the board. I mean, I've got notes here in front of me in terms of ideas that I have, but I saw Mr. Ofac's hand first, so let's let him take the first bite at the apple.
Well, obviously something involving large lots and accessory structures
Yeah.
is one, as well as maybe
Fences?
something with,
Fences.
what was one of the other ones that we had recently that, I'm trying to remember. I shouldn't do this on the fly.
Parking?
I want to say it had something to do with corner lots, but I can't recall.
Well, that's the one that's, really on my mind more than anything else.
Fences!
When it comes to the privacy fences, and we hold people to the different standard because they have to have 2 front yard setbacks, even though they have a front yard and a side yard. And I know that there's language going in front of the Plan Commission that they're going to be reviewing sometime in the relatively near future. I think Ms. Sherhart could probably speak to that more intelligently than I can.
Well, staff had put together some preliminary amendments relative to, it was primarily multiple family residential across the zoning district. There also were a few changes proposed for single family residences relative to corner lots and what the front yard setbacks might have to be. That was presented to the Planning Commission in March, and they hadn't heard it again. And obviously there were extenuating circumstances with the pandemic, but I believe Joseph sent that memo to all of you. So if you wanted to review that in advance of the meeting on September 30th, that could be useful.
Is there any mention about 8-foot driveways?
I'm not sure. Allowing for 8-foot driveways, or
Well, I think
sorry,
I believe that's the minimum width.
that's
but
the minimum.
I would like to see it larger, because sometimes you get these houses that are only putting 8 foot of driveway in. And if your neighbor decides, I think there should be more room, in other words.
Okay, so something about driveways, maybe distance of driveway from property line, or just something about
Property line of the house? Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, because if somebody
Driveways.
puts up a fence, your neighbor, you can't even open your door. That's where it gets dicey. And I know we've been letting some of these builders do some of these narrow driveways, but I don't think it's a good idea.
I have one too.
Well, hold on, Anthony. Yep. Let me get a batting order going here. We're going to start with Mr. Curtis, then Mr. Kroll, then Mr. Olfak.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up, this discussion started with the question, do you have things now, or would you want to, add things to the agenda later? I'm all for both, and it's great to workshop some ideas here, but I hope this agenda will remain open for, if we come up with some more ideas in the next.
Sure, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I wanted to
It doesn't need to be exhaustive now. We could even, as I said, just you can send your ideas to Joseph or I.
All right, so with that, we'll move on to Mr. Kroll.
I would like to explore the whole area of large lots. I think all we've done is change the name to large lots and not done really anything else with it. If you've got a 20,000 square foot lot, why can you only build 3,500 square feet of house? Why can you only have 800 the garage? It seems like we need to have, and I think if we look at that as size of lot, it can really control the big footing. But I think it's ludicrous to buy a 20,000 square foot lot and knock down a house and be able to build 3,400 feet or something. So I'd like to see us look at, kind of explore that whole area of what does that mean?
And I agree with you. I think that's a discussion that's overdue. I was on Plan Commission when we actually put the 3,500 square foot limit in place based on some of the Bigfoot houses that had showed up on Vermont and a couple other areas. And with years to sort of look back on it, I can see that there was certainly some short-sighted thinking in terms of addressing lots that might be 15, 18, 20,000 square feet plus. So I think that's definitely worth exploring. Who do I have next? Anthony and then Mr. Clapp.
One that I think that it'd be nice, especially now with the stormwater management thoughts out there, allowance of flat roofs at the very least, as long as there's green on the flat roof, vegetative flat roofs, to help with that stormwater water runoff, as well as trying to keep the temperature down for a city. So I think allowance of that would be something that could show us as being more progressive of a city.
Would you want to take that a step further and explore like permeable driveways and that sort of thing as well?
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Clatt and then Mr. Kroll.
On a somewhat related note, maybe we can explore our application. There's a lot of talk about the applicant showing practical difficulty, but in a lot of communities that we do work with, they actually have to write out their practical difficulties. They have the 6 criteria items, and they have to physically spell it out. So us as board members can physically see what they feel their hardship or practical difficulties are prior to the meeting. In our application, it simply states that they must show evidence, but it doesn't force them to do anything. But every other community forces us to actually do that as an applicant. So I think our application could take one step forward to make them present some evidence here to help us understand their true needs.
Well, and if they looked at the hardships in a more aggressive fashion, it also put us in a position where quite often we may not have to say no as often as we do if they had done more due diligence up front. That's a very good point. Mr. Kroll.
I'd like to look at parking a little bit, or at least get the conversation started. I think if all the outside experts that I've heard have said that our parking regulations are kind of ridiculous. If you looked at Oak Park, Illinois, which is a similar type town to Royal Oak, their parking requirements are almost half of what ours are. And we keep having people coming in for parking variances, but there isn't really any cars on Woodward that didn't find somewhere to park. Or, I mean, we keep having these parking problems, but we don't really seem to have all these many parking problems. So I think it's time to start to address that.
Especially on Woodward. I'll agree on that.
We'll move on to Mr. Gavin.
I agree with the parking and most everything else that's been said already. One I wanted to throw out there, although it may be less of an issue given the COVID situation, is massage parlors, because that one kept coming up earlier in last year.
Waxing.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know when the ordinance was passed. And I know a lot of those ordinances came from the 70s, when there was a lot of concern about prostitution. I think it's a very different environment now. So I'd like to explore that at least.
I mean, would you want to take it a step further and really review entirely what it means to be an adult business in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, tattoos fall right in there too.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at.
Yeah, we had a few of those microblading cases that had to.
Yeah,
video games or arcades.
Yeah, arcade. Yeah, I mean, how is
arcade?
Okay.
Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to run by Ms. Sherhart for food for thought?
I like the idea of homework. We can all put together ideas and send them off.
Yeah, support that. I'll figure, I'll see when the agenda needs to be finalized, or, I mean, it's supposed to be a work session, so hopefully it could be flexible, but.
Mr. Kroll.
Yes, I was just thinking here, moving away from that we have never officially put our chair and vice chair in this year. Do we plan to just carry that, what we have through the year? Should we have?
Actually, we did that at the December or January meeting.
We had that vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Did we have a meeting in? I don't think we had meetings in either of those.
I remember we had the vote, that's for sure.
Yeah, we had the vote.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I believe it was delayed because I think we had our December meeting canceled when
January.
they would have been voted on, and it might have been at the February meeting.
I don't think we did, but.
No, I recall doing it.
It's in the minutes.
Is it?
Election of officers at the February 13th, 2020 meeting.
There you go.
Yeah, we did that?
Yep.
You moved. You were the first one to introduce the motion to re-elect. So
too much eggnog.
When are we going to sit in the new council chambers? Are we almost there yet? Are we still virtual?
That I don't know. I mean, I'm in the city offices now, but that I don't know.
360 view.
Would you like one?
Yeah.
This is Joseph's office. He has some nice plants.
I need some art on the walls. Yeah, I need some art.
Do we want to have suggestions for Joseph's meeting minutes?
I can answer your question on virtual meetings. I have
thank you, Carol.
Gillum this morning. We are virtual through October because of the way the executive order was written. And then when we get City Hall open and after that, we would like to start having in-person for the smaller groups. One problem like planning and ZBA is going to have is if you have a public hearing, what happens if 60 people come and we can only have 55 in the room, let's say. The new city commission chambers, the capacity is 199 people. So, with the smaller meeting, we can definitely social distance in there. But with public hearings, we have no prediction. So there's some issues that will happen.
Maybe we have to get one of those clickers that a bouncer has or something. We can address that.
The problem is we can't.
But
I nominate Paul Curtis.
I just want a little tour about the facility when that's available. I just want to walk in and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I think we're planning a video one just to hold everybody, just so everybody can see a little bit of the building. It is very nice, I have to say, very nice. And it'll be really cool when the public can get in here. I'm excited to see the public be able to come in here.
All right, is there anything else for the good of this body or the good of the city at this point, Mr. Gavin?
I actually just wanted to know the result of the first agenda item because I wasn't here for it and I was very curious.
Oh, you should have been here.
You could have
You would have been the deciding vote.
It was 4-4.
Oh, wow.
Twice, both sides of it.
Okay.
I think
So they were not approved.
Yeah, so that did fail.
I don't think we should have much more comment on it. We might be having some issues
No,
according
it's
to
fine. I just
their
wanted to
attorney,
know
so.
the results. You don't need to tell me anything more than that. I was just curious about that. I appreciate everyone's patience. Sorry I was late. I had a client that really wanted me to be there.
It happens. All right, well, if there's nothing else.
Adjourn.
A motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
All right, I'm not going to read through the
Who is
list.
the second?
Me.
Oh, thank you.
All right, everybody turn your microphones off and say aye. Aye. All right, we are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Oh, later this month.
Happy birthday, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, happy
Thanks.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Nice way to spend your birthday.
Of course. What better? Thanks, guys.
Happy birthday.
Have a good night.